Hello, my name is Debbie, Owl and Gator Stitcher. Welcome to Flosstube number 47. Today is Monday, January 30th, 2023. This is a video mainly about cross stitch, sometimes about what I'm reading and watching as well. So this is your first time here, welcome. I hope that you like what you see, and if you do, you click on that subscribe button. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really love all the interactions we have, whether it's in the comments here or through commenting on Instagram, or even some of you that I've had a chance to meet in real life. I just love sharing my stitching with everyone, and it's been a wonderful journey. And in fact, a few days ago was my 2-year Flosstube anniversary. I couldn't make it back exactly for the anniversary, but I think I'm only 3 days late. I think I did it first on January 27th, 2021 was my first Flosstube. But anyhow, so to celebrate 2 years on Flosstube, I have a small giveaway, and I just want to thank everyone who has made this journey so much fun for me. When I started, I wasn't sure what to expect. Like all Flosstubers, I was really nervous and wasn't sure, what it was going to be like, but it has been so much fun sharing my stitching with you, interacting with you, and I just want to give a little something back. So I have a small giveaway, and the standard giveaway rules apply. You must be 18 or older so that I can legally have your mailing address, because it is a hard copy. And you will need to leave a comment below, and the keyword that you'll have to leave somewhere in there is bird, B-I-R-D. You can use it in a sentence. You can leave it as a one-word comment. It doesn't matter. And I will use the random comment picker after or right before my next video and select the winner. And I will also say a lot of people who do giveaways frequently have had spammers recently. So don't use the word giveaway, prize, or anything that might attract the spammers. And I also will not comment on your comment if you are the winner, simply because what they've been doing is responding and leaving a link. And I don't want anyone to get, suspicious. So I'm just going to say, if you get someone that says, hey, you've won, that's not me. I just wanted to let you know. So with that said, here is the giveaway I have. So this is armchair, I always get this word wrong, ornithologist. And so I think many of you know, I was a member of the Lindy Stitches Bird Crush Club that went on in 2022. It's now over. It was only a year long. And at the end of the year, she gave us this cute little chart as a bonus pattern. It is cute, but I probably will not stitch it. I have, just started one of the bird crush, one of the actual birds in the club. So I don't think I will ever get around to this. But if you are an armchair ornithologist, or even a real one, or if you have someone in your life who is, this is for you. And then I'm also enclosing the stickers that we got. Now, I joined the club a month late, so I certainly don't have the first one, which is a Stellar J, and I may be missing some of the others as well. The stickers are absolutely beautiful. You can sort of see there's one. I don't want to pull them all out. They are absolutely beautiful stickers, wonderful photography. But the reality is I don't sticker. And so they were just sort of accumulating in my drawers and getting into lots of nooks and crannies. That's why I can't guarantee they're all here, because they still might be one in some nook and cranny somewhere. And I thought I'd rather send these to someone who will appreciate them. I know a lot of people either put stickers in their planners or they do other things, and I think they will be better loved and appreciated by one of my viewers. So again, if you are interested in this, please use the code word BIRD, B-I-R-D, and I will mail this anywhere in the world. So that is my giveaway. And I also want to do a shout out for the Under 1000 Subs Club, and the person I want to shout out is Tina Frazier. So I had the pleasure of meeting Tina the first time in 2021 at the Stitching in the Springs retreat in Yellowstone. Yellow Springs, Ohio. Sorry, that's why it's called Stitching in the Springs. And we actually, she was there with her mother, and then we also went with a fourth person, and we went there's a dairy where you can go get lunch or whatever. We didn't really explore the dairy much, but we went and got lunch there, and that was nice. And then we went to an LNS that was going out of business, and so we did some shopping or damage, however you want to look at it there. But it was just a lovely afternoon. Obviously I go to the retreat to meet people and to stitch, but also just to sort of really get to spend some one-on-one time in a small group with people is lovely. And then we had a chance to spend time together again in November in 2022, because we all went to the retreat again. So Tina has a lot of different crafts. She mainly shares on her Flosstube. Obviously, she shares mostly her cross stitch, but she shows other things as well. And the fun fact about Tina, in addition to being a crafter, she also does roller derby. And so it's, sorry, there's someone, I'm trying to figure out if he's about to mow my lawn or not, and I may pause if he is. So she does just interesting hobbies that cross stitchers have. And I am going to pause this for a moment. Hopefully the guy will finish mowing soon. Okay. I don't know what he's doing. He was just cruising along on the mower, so who knows if he'll come back or not. But with all that said, we're going to just go ahead and jump in and show you what I have been stitching and finishing and other things. So I referenced in my last video that I had attended a retreat in early January, but I didn't show you the FFO because I had lost a part of it. But I am so pleased that I can show you now. So I attended the winter retreat in West Palm Beach. It was hosted by Annabella's cross stitch store. And this is the pattern. So the guest designer was Primrose Cottage Stitchers. So they designed and sent us this pattern. And as part of the retreat, we got all the materials ahead of time. So no, I did not stitch this up at the retreat. The idea was if you wanted to, you could stitch it before the retreat, and then they had a class to finish it. So I actually in December stitched this whole thing up. So basically December, second half of December was 200 stitches on a lot of new starts, and then work on this. But this was a lot of fun. So see if I can get this close enough for you so you can just sort of see some of the details. I loved this little mouse here, really, really cute. Little birds on top of, that's like a sleigh with snowballs, little trees, and then you got a snowman holding what's supposed to, I think, be a birdhouse, and then you got the row of houses. And I just love the color palette that they used here. It's really, really pretty. So had a lot of fun stitching this, and just watching sort of the details come alive, and just sort of the way that this was set up and structured. I don't know. There's something very appealing about having like blocks of stitching. I don't know what that is. I did have a couple personalizations, including this N here. Somehow these two got too close together, so I couldn't bring it all the way up because otherwise it would have touched the T. I don't think if I had not pointed it out to you that you would have noticed it. So basically I had the finished stitch that I brought to the retreat, and they provided everything else that we need to finish it. So this board, it's a wood board. It's really nice. So for those of you who don't know, Primrose Cottage Stitches are three sisters and their mother. But I think their dad actually made this board. And, like these snowflakes are actually like carved in. So absolutely beautiful. And then what we did there, so we got all the materials to finish it while we were there. So the bottom board, we glued that on, and then we put the stitching onto the more sticky board, put the rickrack around it, and then we made the bow. So again, they gave us everything. The button was already covered when we got it. I had somehow my stitching wasn't squaring up when I was putting on the board, and it was pre-cut board, so it wasn't like the board was cut wrong. It was just my stitching. Somehow I warped it, even though I didn't stitch it for that long. But you can't really see. So this top line, the bottom line is flush. The top line is not quite flush, but the bow hides all of the imperfections. And many thanks to Angie, who I met at the retreat, who spent a lot of time trying to help me get this correctly on the board because I was getting very frustrated trying to get it line up. And she's like, finally she said, look, the top, it's just not a perfect rectangle, but if you put the bow and just pull it down, no one is going to know. And I think the reason why I did not show this to you last time was we could have glued the whole thing on while we were there, but I knew I was putting it in the car and it would be in the trunk, and I was afraid it was going to get bumped and it would pop off. So I made a decision to I would glue it at home, and then I couldn't find the bow. And so I spent a lot of time looking for the bow and couldn't find it. So I actually ended up going to get more materials and made another bow. I wasn't thrilled with it because it wasn't this kind. It was more of a white with a blue on it, with snowflakes and all of that. But it wasn't really. It was because it was a white background with the gray fabric. It didn't look right. So I sat on it a couple days and I said, you know what, I'm just going to attach this all with magnets as opposed to glue it directly on the board. And that way, if I either find the bow or I find better ribbon, because it was January and, the ribbons were all 80% off, which was great, but it wasn't, Michael's and Joann's and all those places didn't have a great selection of ribbon anymore because Christmas was over. So I attached this with magnets and whatever, and then I put the magnets on here. And right as I was about to say, okay, I'm just going to attach the other bow, and I had a cute little snowflake button that I had instead of a cover button there. And I was looking for something entirely different. I was in my cross stitch, and of course I found this bow. It had I think when I pulled this out initially, it had fallen into my basket with my whips, and it was only when I was looking for some other whip I found it. So anyhow, this is my FFO. I'm really pleased with it. And if you like this chart, I believe they said they are going to release this pattern at market in March. So if you like it, you don't have to wait that long to get it. I only have the PDF, so I can't share it. So that again is Winter from Primrose Cottage Stitches. And I so rarely have FFOs, so it's always exciting when I do. Oh, and I didn't get them all to sign it, but I got 2 of the designers to sign it on the back. Okay. All right, with that, now I'm going to actually show you some of the things I worked on, and I did have a new start. And so this is one that had been sitting around in my kitted up pile for over a year. And it never bubbled to the top. But I was doing Bringo through the monthly magazine cross stitch challenge. I always get those words mixed up, but I think many of you know the group. So they had the game Bringo, where basically we had a bingo board with various prompts, and she would call the numbers every day, and you were supposed to stitch on 100 stitches every day. I have completed it. I had to do a little bit of catch up, but one of them was a new magazine start. So it wasn't an existing magazine piece, it was a new start. And so this one had been sitting there for a while, and I thought, well, this is a good chance to start it. So this is called Festive Lamp Post, and this is from the World of Cross Stitching, the British magazine. It is done on a red fabric. It is not a petty point fabric. These are actually sequins that are stitched on. I most likely will not be stitching on sequins. I think just having a background will be fine. But lots of fun stitching in there. Some half stitches there to give that effect that you're looking through the glass of the lamp. And there are some beads and other things in there as well. I think there's some Kreinik. So that's what it will look like. And here is my start. So not a huge start, but that is the top of the lamppost minus the back stitching. And I think I knew I had wanted to do this last year and, put it aside and said, okay, you're going to, I want you to work on this. But I knew it would sort of be hard, especially towards the end of 2021, to find some red fabric. And then I got this, I was at that time a member of the Fabric of the Month from Bestitch Me. And this came and I thought this would be perfect. So this is called Cardinal. It's more of a pinky red than a bright red, but it still works for the piece. I think it still has a Christmassy vibe. And so I tucked it in with the magazine and then spent over a year and didn't start it. But glad I had a chance to start it now, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So that is Festive Lamp Post. And then another one of the games I am playing is the Whip Warriors, another Facebook group, which is now closed. But they had, I can't remember the exact name of it, but they basically had, I think they call it Whip Frenzy. And the idea is to touch as many projects as possible, put 100 to 200 stitches in them within, I think it was over either like a 48 or 72 hour period. And so some of that I tied in with other things that I was working on, and some of it I just sort of picked projects that I hadn't worked on in a while. I am now starting to, I do count my stitches and I do track them, but I now have a stack of index cards, and as I work on a project, all I do is I put that index card at the bottom of the pile. And so the one at the top is the one I have not worked on most recently. And so I said, I'm going to make a point to start working on some of these that have been sitting around. I did touch all my whips in 2022, but there were some that maybe I touched them once, or I touched them in January, February, and didn't pick them up again. And so this was one of those. And so this is Autumn Blessings, another magazine piece from Cross Stitching Country Craft from the 90s. So this is, they call it Thanksgiving prayer. I'm not doing the prayer, it doesn't speak to me. So I'm just doing this bit up here, which I think is really cute. And so here's where I am now. So basically I worked on this squirrel, and there's no back stitch in here yet, but this is actually a stump. That's what that weird thing is. It will look much better when I have the back stitch in. This is a squirrel. You can now start to see some of him coming together. I will say this is an aida, so it's not like it's difficult to count. But for some reason, the squirrel has been the death of me in like making mistakes, and I'll, put in 20 stitches, and then I'll move on to the next color. And then I would realize that those, like, I had made a mistake and half those stitches needed to come out and be put back in, and just sort of, I think that's part of the reason why I go so slowly on this one. I've had this for over 2 years now, and it is a small piece, and it is a magazine piece and from the 90s. And those of you who are familiar with these, very small printing, and the symbols are not like the stamp is pale as well, and so it's just harder to read, and so that may be it as well. And the back stitch isn't perfect when it's on there. So sometimes, like the line for back stitch, it is transparent, but it doesn't go exactly on the grid line. It will cross over into the stitch. So it can get a little frustrating at times to do, but a little bit at a time. I probably only put in like 100 stitches on this total, and that's okay. Every stitch is a stitch forward to getting it to the end. So again, Autumn Blessings. Next piece is definitely one that every stitch will get me closer to the end, but it is going to be a journey. And this is the Grand Library, supersized max color, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs, artwork by Aimee Stewart. So I started in the bottom left-hand corner, which is not my usual place, but again, I've mentioned this before. This part of the chart is the part that is most interesting to me. And while I would love to do the whole thing, I also know, given the amount of things that I do stitch and limitations, that this may never get done, and that's okay. But I would love to see if I could, have to make a sacrifice. This is what I would like to have done. It's got the romance section. It's got the fire with the kitty and the doggy, and just lots of lovely things there. So I put in probably 700 stitches since you saw this last time, and I'm going to say it still looks like nothing. So here is where I am now. So I'm trying, while you can see that I'm doing this a little bit cross country, I'm trying to sort of do it a motif at a time, so I at least can start to see things come out, but it's taking a long time. So this is like our area by time. So this is like the shelf in the corner. So now all the stitches sort of in the actual shelf in this part are done. There aren't any more ninja stitches. And then I started moving, but as I have a color on, if I found it somewhere else in here, up here, I would pull it, which is why you've got that sort of weird thing going. And then I'm not even entirely sure what this is. It will, I'm sure, make itself known when I stitch on it. But I've been working on the colors here. So most of what I did was in this section here. This is a book, and it is nothing but confetti. And since this is max coverage, so I get very excited when I pick a color here. And it also appears in here because I think I probably will move into this and try and get these two. This is like an open book here. Try to get these done next. And again, lots of confetti, lots of color change. It's what makes it so beautiful, but it also will be time intensive, labor intensive. So I will work on it when I get to it. But this is Grand Library. Okay. And the next one I have to show is Simple Pleasures. This is charted by Paine Free Crafts, artwork by Chris Dunn. And just a really, really sweet picture. And I know that Elaine from Ellie Welly Stitchers is also starting. If she hasn't started it, she's going to start it very soon. A lot of us just fell in love with this pattern and are working on it. I have not gotten very far, and I have a couple of sad stories to tell you. But so here's where I am now. So started where I start more traditionally. I'm trying to get something behind here to show you. So I started in the upper left-hand corner, which is my usual thing. And I went to, sort of picking colors as I find sort of ninja stitches, and then just sort of do them in this sort of general area. And I saw a symbol and I said, okay, I gotta, pull that color out. And I was merrily stitching away with that color for probably a couple hundred stitches, and then I realized it was the wrong color. So I think it called for, I don't even remember which way it was, but it either called for 8-9, I think it called for 898, and I used 838. And the thing was, when I looked at the number, I knew it was sort of a deep brown. And so when I pulled out the wrong one, I'm like, it's a deep brown. Like had it been, I don't know, 310, I was like, oh, that's not the right color. But somehow I messed that up. I thought about pulling the stitches out, and I'm like, nope, not going to happen. And even when I did it, I can, the colors are so close, you can barely tell, and this is not the focus of the piece. So I decided to leave it. But that's my little sad story about simple pleasures. So my, I don't even know if it's a hay or what it is, the straw up there. Will be slightly, and it's just the darkness in there. It's not a huge deal. It's just, as you all know, when you realize that you've made that kind of mistake, it's sort of like, ugh. But I kept going, and I'll be fine with it. I can't tell the difference. So anyhow, next one I worked on is the Bald Eagle. This is from Cottage Guarded Samplings. This is a Year in the Woods series. So I made a decision to start, I believe these are the summer months, and I'm going to do all 3 this summer on one piece of fabric to be displayed together. So they're not going to be cut up into 3 individual pieces. So I'm starting with the Bald Eagle, and here's where I am now. And this is so much fun. When I went to the Saturday Stitchy Day at my local needle workshop, which is Victorian Rose Needle Arts, when I took this there, and the design on this is so amazing, and just, I really love working on this. So basically what I did this time was I worked basically and pulled the wing all the way down. So this actually is the bottom of the wing. So this is I don't know if it's height, because the wing, whatever. But this is, there is more of the pattern further down. Like there's a little tree down here and stuff. So it's not that this is the full height of the pattern, but this is the full part of the wing. And it's just coming out really, really fun. This, because of the nature of it, you can see I didn't do this time, but as you can see it up here, I know some people who don't normally make working copies said they had to make working copies because you just sort of get lost because it's not a perfect repeating pattern. And you just have to be careful. I've chosen not to do that. But, I could see myself at some point going, wait, you need to do that. But right now I'm doing okay, just looking at the pattern. I'm not marking it up or anything. I'm just sort of doing it as I go along. So again, this is the Bald Eagle. Another piece that I worked on is Beautiful Things by Lindy Stitches. This also is another piece that has a sad story. Really cute little piece. And I pulled this out, and I set everything up in the Q-snap, and I was all ready to go. And I even had like a little bit, this is going to be the word my, so this is the M. I even had, so I had some of the thread left on the needle from the last time I worked on this, which I don't remember when that was. And I finished that off, and I went to go pull out, this is River Rocks. So it's a variegated thread. And when I went to pull it out, I couldn't find it. It was not in my the bag. And when I normally have I do have a master set of DMC, but when it comes to the variegated, I do kit up my projects with the variegated so that, I'm worried about dye lots and all of that. And this was not in my bag. And I sometimes things will get separated from their bags. And when they do, I'm pretty good about sort of setting them aside so that if I can't remember what project they go to, so then when I realize what project they go to, I can rehome them, or not send them home. Let's put it that way, not rehome them. They're going exactly back to where their home was to begin with. But I have no idea where this is. I probably at some point shoved it into another project bag. I looked at a couple projects where maybe I thought I would have shoved this in. It wasn't there. And at that point, I was like, I'm done trying to find it. I'm just going to move on. So I had some of these, like, I certainly had all of that done. And I had maybe half of this done here. And I think I was like right up to here. So then I went to pull this color out, which is also a variegated, which is Dulce de Leche. Didn't have that there either. But at that point, I was like, yeah, you're done. So I just pulled out the DMC conversion and did it in the 2 diamonds. Dulce de Leche is only in the diamonds, and then like a little bit on the belly, like the underbelly of the bird. So not a huge number. So I'm just going to continue with doing the DMC conversion. I'm not going to bother to get the Dulce de Leche. But with the river rocks, because I had started it there, I do sort of feel that I should continue with the variegated. It's one thing if I never had it, I could have just substituted something else. But since I started, so when I at the store on Saturday, I picked up some river rocks. I've put it with this project, but it looks like it's quite a significantly different dye lot. So I'm just going to hold on whenever the next time I pull this project out. I'm almost all the way across here. I need to send my send the border, and the border does not go all the way around. It's sort of all the way down at the bottom and then about 2/3 of the way across. I'm looking at the pattern down there. And some of the words are done in a different color. So I will continue and hold off, and probably either, unless I find the river rocks, the original one, I will continue with the rest of it. And then when I've decided, if I really do never find it, is to finish it off with the river rocks I did buy. Hopefully it will be close enough. And quite frankly, give me a sentiment where it says, oh my darling, it's true. Beautiful things have dents and scratches too. I will have a dent and scratch in my non-matching blends where it says that. So I think that's kind of perfect for this project. Right up there with the one, I think it's a Kathy Barrick that said, I also am stitched with flaws and good intentions. Whatever, there's one by Kathy Barrick that says something like that. And my beautiful things will not be perfect, but it will be, my floss colors will match the sentiment of what I want it to be. Okay, so the next one, this was one, so I did actually have a prompt in one of my groups that said, stitch on the piece that has been the longest since you have stitched on it, which sort of then really feeds into my desire to work on projects that I haven't touched in a while. And so that one, surprisingly for me, was Water Goddess by Joan Elliott Designs. I absolutely love this. It's kind of hard to see, but there is, I don't think you can see it at all there, but there is a lot of Krynic around here. And it does blend into the blue of the fabric. It's supposed to be like ripples on the water or whatever. But I know I did a challenge last year where you had to put in 500 stitches of Krynic, and I did it, and I felt like I barely scratched the surface, and I was done with Krynic for a while. So I think I put it down and then sort of, I don't want to say out of sight, out of mind, but sometimes you just, sort of fancy lady comes up. I'm like, I'm just going to pick a different fancy lady. So I said, okay, I pulled this out. Part of the Bringo challenge was a whip you dread, and I thought, well, I dread doing all that Krynic. So I pulled this out, and the other one I needed 200 stitches, so you can sort of see some of the Krynic there. It is a light blue Krynic. So I put in, for Whippy Dread, I put in another 100 stitches of the Krynic, just because I thought if I dread it because of the Krynic, I might as well do the Krynic. And there's still more. But I only had an 8x8 Q-snap on this, so the stitching area, I basically hit all the Krynic in that section. So then what I did was I came and I put in another 100 stitches or so of down here into her skirt. And it is hard to see some, you can see there is some blue there. It is a little bit hard to see on this fabric, but the light blue itself is all surrounded by darker blues, which will show up in the fabric just fine. Loving this pattern, just not loving all the Krynic. So that is Water Goddess. Okay. And the next one is a crop orange. I didn't want to say it's a crop, it's a snippet of a piece that I am doing. This is from a magazine. This is The World of Cross Stitching. I think it's from came out last summer. So this is the whole pattern. I'm not doing the whole pattern. I'm just doing sort of, sorry, I put it like this so you can see it better. I'm basically doing this clamshell, this seaweed, this piece of coral, seahorse, and I'll figure out how many fish I'm doing. And I'm doing this because I'm going to Stitching in the Wild retreat in May, and we're supposed to stitch on something wild, and that's always a little bit hard for me, and I don't do a lot of smalls, and a lot of the smalls I have are more cutesy and not wild, and they're like, it's wild however you define it, and quite frankly, I think if you want to participate in the Smalls of Change, you can really bring whatever you want, but I thought, okay, I'm going to stitch on wild animals, they count. So here's where I am now. So I really just want to get this one done. That is probably at least a third of the way done. So for February in the Magazine Monthly Challenge, the monthly theme is beach or ocean, and I think I'm going to put down just to finish this. Again, this is a really easy stitch. This is a 28 count linen, so it's big stitching, and it's a fairly easy pattern to follow. The only thing I have to figure out, I think I have to adjust some of the fish in the bubbles to have it sort of fit properly. And then I don't know how I'm going to FFO it at all, and I probably will not show you until after the retreat. Not that I think, I don't think many people who watch my channel will be going to that retreat. And even if they are, the chances of them knowing they're going to get this, but nonetheless, in the spirit of having fun and keeping it a secret. But that is where I am now. So basically, I've just been working on the 2 colors of the seaweed. Okay, this was a piece that I really, really want to get done this year, and I did not make great progress on it, and that makes me a little bit sad. But we can only, have our limitations on what we can stitch. So this is Portrait of Veronica. This is by Mirabilia, so a big fancy lady. And I am, working on this piece of furniture because for me, this is the most boring part of the piece that I have left. So I'd rather sort of get that part done. And part of the reason why I slowed down on this, you can see it a little bit in here. So this called for a sparkly thread. And originally when I went through, I had gotten the beads and the krynic and everything else to go with it. But again, because I used my master set of DMC, I didn't really pay attention. And that actually is the, I don't know if it's the diamant line, but it is their sparkly thread. And I knew people had said it's difficult. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to use a short length. How hard can it be? My Michaels and Joann's didn't have it. So I had to order it from 123 Stitch. I got it and did 6 stitches and realized it was absolutely horrible. I was using a needle threader for it, which was fine. But my needle slipped off after about 6 stitches and the thread split, and it wasn't like at the beginning. It was the whole thing split into 3 things, and I thought, yep, I'm done. So I went into my stash and I found a gold colored krynic, which was a very similar color. It's actually cording and not the braid, and it's very slippery. And I wouldn't choose to stitch with it, but I'm like, at that point I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to try and go get braid or anything else. I have this in my stash. I'm never going to use it for anything else, probably, because I don't know. Cording never seems to be called for it. And I can feel the difference with the cording, but I don't really know like the effect in the end, what it is. So I just started using it and it's fine. It is very slippery, but it doesn't fray, which is great. So a lot of these gaps here are this sort of color here. And I think that's part of it slowed down because I was waiting for it. And then part of me was just like, I have a lot of sad stories this week or this video. But we are mustering through, and it was just me. And the next time I pick this up, solution has been had, and I will keep working on it. And again, like when people look at this whole piece, the furniture is probably going to be the least remarkable part about it. So part of me wants to get this done in time for the Mirabilia retreat in October. Part of me says that's a little bit ambitious. Okay, next piece. This is a really small. This was one I double dipped on challenges for the Whip Frenzy. You did 100 stitches in something, and then also in Magical Stitches, I'm trying again to do the DMC challenge where every week they give us a color and we're supposed to do 100 stitches in that. I did it about halfway through the year last year and then just crashed and burned, so we'll see how well I do. Anyhow, this is from Sapphire Mountain Handcrafts, also the woman who does the Stitching Book Club, but this is not a Stitching Book Club. This is a horrible printout, but it's the secret ingredient is love. Just kidding, it's cat hair, which is kind of my life. So this was a very small piece, and basically I needed to put in 839. This is the chocolate on the cake, So that's what I did. And I think I put in 100 stitches and then I called it a day. So you can see that. But if I think like, if I finish that, then like that thread, almost all the cake, the chocolate will be down on the cake. This is a very quick piece, and it's just one of those pieces I need to put my mind to it. If I worked on it for a couple days, it will be done. So next one is Oh Joyous Day by Blackbird Design. So this is one of my focus pieces. I would like to get this done sooner rather than later. And so I finished this band probably in 2021 and did not get great progress in 2022. But here is where I am now. I got quite a few stitches in on this. So basically I got the whole bird done. I had part of the bird done before, but I filled in everything, and including like some of the outlining of the wing was not, or the inside the body wasn't done. Put on the little feet. This is the basket for flowers. Did most of the letters here. There are a couple letters here and sort of tucked in here. The letters on this are very quick though. I need to do the flower, and then I'm going to jump into the house. I have just about decided what I'm going to write on this. So on the pattern, if you can read it above the house, it says Oh Joyous Day and then initials. This is the original sampler it's based off of. So this is not a true reproduction sampler. It's more of a inspired sampler. And so she was strongly encouraging, she said her I think son was getting married. It's all in here, but I think her son was getting married. And so she decided to make this a wedding sampler. So I think, assuming I can get it done in time, I'm going to do it in honor of my husband's and my 20th anniversary. So she's got the initials there. I think I'm just going to put our first names and put whether it's our anniversary date, or I may just put our wedding date when we got married. So I will figure that out. So that will probably be at the very end when I put all of that in. And a couple of the motifs, like not letters, but like little doodads, like Smyrna crosses and things that aren't anything but filler. I will probably leave those out until I get all the spacing done. But once I finish this little bit, the flowers and a couple of letters, I am moving on to that house. Because I think even though that house, it's a house, and we always think they're really big. I think that house may actually be less stitching than the bird. We'll see. Will actually probably be easier, at least, because it's a lot of straight lines and not as hard. But I sort of feel like once I get that house done, I will be in the home stretch. So, and for one of my challenge groups in February, I'm picking that. Like, there's something we need to have something with words, and it requires 2,000 stitches. And I'm very good about, if I say I'm going to complete a prompt, of completing it. So I will pick that one, and that won't guarantee I'll get, no guarantees in life, but get me closer to 2,000 stitches. Next one that I would like to get done at the end of this year. This is the blue flower. This is Huckleberry Farm. So this for 2 years, and I basically had just got, not even the house, I shouldn't like this part. So I fully completed page 1, which is here. It's 6 pages. 6, I think it's 6 and not 9. But I done, but like page 1, but like all the motifs so like the very tip of, I don't know if that's a bear or a chipmunk, but the tip of the ears of this thing. But I did the whole thing, and did the whole basket because they handle the basket. So I had done a little bit more. But what a small group of us have created a group. I shouldn't say a group. We are a chat, and we copied shamelessly from other stitchers who have done this, where they just set up a group. They do it to encourage each other, and it's pick any pattern you want that you're working on and break it up into 12 parts. And the idea is to do a part every month. And at the end of the year, if you meet all your goals, your piece will be completed. So my goal was to complete that center. Well, it's not exactly center, but you can sort of see all of that, the lowercase alphabet and the border and the little baby bear. I shouldn't say baby bear, but the lazy bear. And I did it. And I'm trying to make sure I can get all of this in. So that's what I have done. There is definitely a spacing error somewhere in that alphabet. there's a part of me that said, go figure it out. And there's part of me that says it doesn't matter. So I think, and it was one of those where you start to say, well, am I too far to the left or too far to the right, and trying to figure it out. And then, I was that border, with the exception of the dip where the bear is, it is 100% repetitive. It is not, there's no spacing issues or anything like that. And so like that, so I would periodically check to say, okay, is my letter lining up with the border? And when I realized at some point it wasn't, I couldn't figure out where it was not correct. So I just said, okay, keep going with the border. And then I finally finished the top, got close enough to where I knew like that was the place to turn, and came down, and then it matched up, and there's little gaps under the bear. I came really close and said, okay. And then, but I had to move the Q snap at some point. So like, let's say half of the alphabet. I then started to get paranoid and say, because I couldn't figure out where my mistake was. At some point I knew I was correct, and then someplace I was wrong. And I'm like, did I leave out a letter? And because it was all wrapped up in the Q snap and it was in there really nice and snug, I didn't want to undo the Q snap. So just like, have a little faith, your alphabet, you didn't make a mistake. Otherwise, everyone knows, when you're doing stitch by stitch, you're not looking necessarily at the whole motif. But I'm like, did I mess up the alphabet? Did I miss a letter? And that's why it's not that there's any spacing issues wrong. No, my alphabet is correct. I do this all the time. I make myself paranoid. I think I have a mistake, but I don't. So there's a gap. The letters in real life do show up a little bit better than they are showing up on the camera, although they're showing up pretty well. When I was photographing these for my various challenge groups, the letters were absolutely disappearing. But I'm really happy with this project. Blue flower, like whenever we get, like I'm entering a new group and they ask, who's your favorite designer? It's the blue flower. I love her stuff. So, okay. All right. And so my goal for, sorry about that. If you heard that, I hit something on my desk, a metal bar. I knew February was going to have a lot going on, and so I deliberately have a very small goal for February on that. So, all right, the next one, another one I haven't pulled out in a long time. Pulled this out for a couple of different prompts, including my 100 stitches that I needed for Whip Frenzy. So this is Oak Drive by Mystic Stitch Ink. This is a paper pattern, and the company it's no longer in business. So even though part of me really wants to buy the version because it's a very confetti heavy chart, it is no longer a possibility to buy a PDF of this. So I soldier on, and it will be a forever. But I love this picture, and I'm enjoying the stitch. It's just a confetti heavy, very slow stitch. So here's where I am now. All I did this time was I pulled out and I did a lot. So this, like, most of this green blotch is what I did. And then I did pull some colors in here. I had a smaller Q snap on it, and I think that was a mistake. I think I need to get a bigger Q snap out so that like I can at least start pulling the colors here. My goal for I don't want to say this year, but I have goals on every single project. And oops, hold on one second. We have an impatient cat. Sorry, I got a comment that I don't show my cats enough, so I'm going to show one of them. Here's Maya. Say hi, Maya. She really just wants to go look out the window. We have gorgeous weather today, so all the birds are active. Yeah. She's a very independent cat, so she doesn't love to be held. But just like one more, everyone see your gorgeous face there, Maya. All right, now go do what you want. So that's Maya. I apologize for the interruption. So don't really remember where I was. I got so distracted by the kitty. But that was Oak Drive. Okay, the next piece is one that I would like to get done this year. This was something I'm doing in collaboration with Stitching Jules Designs. I think many of you know Stitching Jules. She's one of the original Flosstubers, and she now has her own design company. And so she wanted to support Flosstubers who have under 1,000 subscribers, and she basically took volunteers, and the deal was we got a pattern for free, but she wanted us, just to stitch it up. So the one I chose was 3 dancers. So this is absolutely beautiful. And this is only has the whole thing about 26,000 stitches. So it's my smallest full coverage. And so I just feel like I'm flying on. I'm already at 20%. And you'll see, so here's where I am now. So basically I'm almost done with all the background in this section. And right about here is the, like you can see it's more clear here. These are about the center line and here. So not quite 25%. You can see I still need to do a lot of this dancer, but a lot of the background around this dancer has been completed. Obviously, I moved into quite a bit of, well, one of the blues on the dancer's costume. Just have a lot of fun working on this. Really, really beautiful. Love watching it come through, and just it's a delight to stitch on. So I put in, I can't remember since the last time I showed you, but for the month I put in over 2,000 stitches. So a lot of fun to stitch on this. Next one is a favorite of a lot of viewers, and that is Old World Map. This is the large version charted by Artecy. And this is my oldest project, and so it's large, so I know it's going to take me forever to do it. Large relative for Hade, it's not large. For Artecy, it is large. It's about 250,000 stitches. And here is where it is now. So basically, this time, I again, as I mentioned, the DMC challenge. One of the colors was one of these here, one of these yellows. So rather than sort of start up here, the yellow was in here, and that's why this is the outline of the globe over there. But it also appeared a lot in this continent here. So this is the North Pole up here. And I think I've decided this is like Canada, North America area. A lot of the yellow appeared in here. But like it wasn't just the yellow. I did probably 100 stitches of the yellow for the challenge, and then pulled out other colors. So it's starting to come through. One of my groups, we have 5 focus pieces, and this is one of my focus pieces. So I have to get at least 500 stitches every month. But if I get more, that's wonderful. I haven't decided if I'm gonna, now that I'm sort of done with the month, I'm gonna move up here and start working on this. Is like, you can sort of see the banner here. If I want to keep going with the banner here, if I really want to focus on the globe itself. Haven't decided that yet. I have a couple more days before I start pulling this out again. But I'm always happy to work on this, especially since my husband and I are thinking about doing traveling again. Real traveling, not just little jaunts here or there. So looking forward to this. Not that we're going to the North Pole. My goodness, we had a couple days below freezing here in Florida. I was not a happy camper. That's why I'm so happy that today it's getting up to 80 degrees. And I'm in northern Florida, so we can get cold. We don't get snow, but we can get cold. All right. Anyhow, the last piece I have to show you. This is Cats in the Toy Box, my piece that I am determined to get done this year. This is charted by Heaven and Earth Design, artwork by Lesley Anne Ivory. And I got in this month over 4,000 stitches, probably a little bit less than 2,000 stitches, because I know I had done a lot of the black last time I showed you, but I pulled in, this is surprisingly, like this is you can see the kitty here. This is the kitty, and that's the spine of the kitty. If you are used to cats, especially like tabby cats, you know that they have like going along their spine, their fur there is very dark. It may not be black, but it might be like a dark brown or something. And then, the stripes all come out. So, but this is, I was expecting, when I first started stitching this, I expected a lot more like grays and things, but there are a lot of greens in this cat. And, you see up here, I'm not going to pull off the Q snap, but you can sort of see the effect is great. But when you pull it down here, it looks really weird until you actually get it. I didn't even know what this was. I thought this was shadowing initially when I started stitching it. And then when I started pulling in the other colors, I realized, oh yeah, that's just the cat. And then I decided I should be responsible and work some on the border. So I've been pulling out reds, and then there's actually a lot of 720 in there also, some orange working on the border. Again, love this piece. Never get tired of working on it. I will say there is still about 500 stitches of Krynic to go. I've also decided that if I have another Haid that calls for a lot of Krynic, I probably will just do a DMC version of it because I don't know how much the Krynic, the exception of the ears of the cat, where I can see it making a big difference. Like what's in the body of the cat, I don't think it makes enough of a difference. And you've heard me complain a lot. Apparently I don't like stitching with Krynic, but no Krynic in this part, just pure DMC, and it's been a lot of fun. Okay, so that is all the stitching I have to show you. My plans for February, just keep going with my challenge groups. I think all of those pieces are my 5 focus pieces that I've shown you, which are Huckleberry Farm, Joyous Day, Cats in the Toy Box, 3 Dancers, and Portrait of Veronica. So those are my sort of 5 focus pieces. Some I hope to get done sooner rather than later, but we will see. Okay, so that is, and I feel like I have actually a 6th focus piece, and now I can't remember what that is. Okay, so anyhow, let me show you what some of my acquisitions are. And I feel like I am missing a key acquisition here, which makes me very, very sad. So I actually had to pull it out. Hold, please. Okay, I'm back. I'm having to film the second half of this video, or the very last bit of this video again, because I meant to hit pause and didn't, and then hit pause when I was talking. So we're going to jump in, but the key thing is I found the missing item, which was really important. So I was very fortunate. Tina Fraser had a giveaway, and I was very fortunate to win her giveaway. She was giving away 2 lavender and laces, and I won one of them. So it's this one. I'll show really quickly, but I don't want to flash the whole chart. So this is the picture. This is Gift of Peace from Lavender and Lace. So really pretty Santa there. And I will really look forward to stitching this. So thank you so much, Tina, for that. And then Tiny Hummingbird Stitchery. She periodically, when she knows a chart is coming out and it's going to be popular, she'll post it in her Facebook group and ask if anyone wants to pre-order. And generally I don't do that because I can get, I get things when I want to get them. But this one I was so excited about when I saw it. And so I did ask to pre-order it. And this is Mirabilia. This is Nightingale. Absolutely love this. I also did get the bead pack with it. And it is really pretty. I will say I was watching Nadzik stitch, and she did comment about you can sort of see them there, all of the bugle stitches or bugle beads down there, which isn't as interesting to me as well. If I ever get around to that point where I'm at the final decisions, I'll make a decision at that point. Who knows what my interest will be by the time I get this done. But this is really beautiful. Probably will not do it on a green fabric. I'll probably try something with the blue. But this is gorgeous. So thank you, Sammy, for taking a pre-order. Then my local needlework store, Victoria and Rose Needle Arts. I got a gift certificate for my mother from them. And so when I was there on Saturday for the stitching session, I picked up a few things. She was having a sale on her chart. So I got some threads and other things, but the charts were on sale. So maybe it was a chance for me to pick up a few things that I had my eye on, but hadn't purchased. So the first one of those is, I think you're familiar with this one. This is Jane Hopkins, 1875, from Hands Across the Sea. Gorgeous, gorgeous flowers in there. Next one is a really old one, Lavender and Lace. This is Queen Anne's Lace. Absolutely gorgeous. Brian Blitzstitch has been stitching this, and I loved seeing his progress on this. He's almost done. His last video, I think he was closing in on a finish, but he wasn't quite there. So this is beautiful. One that I've had my eye on for quite a while. This is Queenstown Samplers, Sampler Designs. This is Hannah Penniston, 1830. Love those figures. I think they're more even than even Adam and Eve. Look at those shoes. I don't think it's going to show up very well. Look at those shoes. Not sure if they wore shoes in the in Eden, but I doubt they wore high heel shoes. But that's brilliant. I got Shakespeare's Fairies, and this is an older one, not super old, but not a new release, from Mirabilia. I've got Blue Flower. This is Spring Forest Scrapbook Part 2. You can see the whole thing here. There's 9 blocks total, and the other 5 blocks are designed by Lindy Stitches. So you, if you want to do the whole thing, you have to get the other pattern, but you can do them individually. You can just do 4 of them, however you choose to do them. I haven't decided how I'm going to do it yet, but love the Lindy Stitches, love the Blue Flower, so I had to add that to my collection. And then when I was going through my whole DMC metallic thing and ended up having to put an order in with 123 Stitch, I always go to look at my wish list to see if anything is on sale. And this was on sale. This is Fire Goddess from Joan Elliott Designs. So I think this will be a really nice companion to Water Goddess, which I showed earlier in my video. So that is all I have for acquisitions. Really quickly moving into what I've been reading and watching. So what I've been watching, one show which I enjoyed was called Three Pines. It's a limited series on Amazon Prime. It stars Alfred Molina, and it's based on a Louise Penny novel, mystery novel. And I believe there are 8 episodes, and each mystery takes about 2 episodes. And he is a Montreal homicide detective, although it's in Canada, so I don't think they're called detectives. But he basically ends up having to investigate. He goes to this town called Three Pines, hence the name. And he it's a small town, and it's full of quirky characters, and it's a lot of fun. But there's also, across the 8 episodes, there is the sort of underpinning everything is some police corruption, and also a big focus on missing and murdered Indigenous women. So highlighting that issue as well. So I highly recommend, if you like murder mysteries and quirky characters, it's a good show good thing to watch. And the book I read was, that I recommend, although it was a very difficult read, was Our Bodies, Their Battlefields by Christina Lamb. She is a British journalist, and she is examining the role of rape as a weapon of war, and one, not just a drunken soldier going out and raping a woman, which is horrible, but as a distinctive policy, as a way to sort of subjugate a population and to control them. So very effective, really well-written book, although again, very difficult. She focuses on some very modern conflicts, including the Yazidi women in Iraq because of ISIS, and the Rohingya in Burma. But then also going to other conflicts, which the late 20th century, so Rwanda and Bosnia. She does examine some other conflicts that are a little bit older, like World War II, both the comfort women in Asia, as well as what happened to some of the women on the Eastern Front with the Russian soldiers. But then also, and then she does briefly touch on the U.S. Civil War. But she's a journalist. She wants to talk to victims. And obviously with the U.S. Civil War, there are not any victims left to talk to. And even with World War II, many people have passed away because it was more than 60, 70 years ago now, if I can do my math. So obviously a lot of people, not many people are surviving that. All right, so that is all I have to talk about today. I'm going to try and splice these 2 videos together in my video editing software that I don't really love. But I will do my best. And I would like to wish all of you happy stitching. And I hope to see you again in 2 weeks. Bye.